Hello, everybody. Warm welcome, warm welcome. I'm probably going to put my video off in a second just to preserve bandwidth, but it's just good to say hi to everybody to begin with. And some of you are just joining. Welcome. Let's see who all we have here. We have Kamini, Akanksha, Ahan, Aisha, Aman. All the A's are there. There from the C's, Deepali is there. And Eric there, G, Gaurav, Gayatri, Hema, Ilse, Kalyani, Magdalena's here, Namrata, so many people, wonderful, good to have you all. Sairi's here, Rohan, Rochna, wonderful. And all the way down we have Vasant is also here. Hi Vasant, it's been a while. Sunana, Sujay, welcome, good. I'm going to put my video off just to preserve bandwidth because sometimes we've had a challenge with that. And the picture you're seeing is a picture I just took about an hour ago. It's not that clear, I guess, but that's the very bright full moon from where I am in Uttarakhand. It's near Nainital where I am. So it's really bright here. It's like a big flashlight in the sky. Good. So this is going to be a practice session. It's going to be mostly some form of guided meditation, some questions. And since this is a webinar, you can connect with me either through the chat. There's also a Q&A box, which I'll check from time to time. And along with that, you can also raise your hand. And at some point, I might unmute some of you if you raise your hand. Kamini, you raise your hand. I'm not sure if you want to say something. Probably just accidentally raise your hand. And great. Let's sit comfortably. Also, in the chat, you can let me know if sometimes you're struggling to hear me, because that has happened in the past. I'm in a place where the internet is not the strongest. It's almost like the more beautiful the place, the less strong the internet. It's almost like a law of nature. So you can't expect to have deep connection with self and nature and also strong internet. It kind of goes, it's like a inverse proportionality there. But I'm glad you can hear me right now. Thanks, Dipali. That's great. But let me know in the comments if sometimes you can't hear me, then I'll change my Wi-Fi. We have a few Wi-Fi's available here, so I'll switch. All right. Can I get you to sit comfortably and become aware of the space in the room that you're in? You can either lie down or sit up, both are fine. Chances are you'll sleep if you lie down, but that's fine, no worries. Whatever's comfortable. Notice the space in the room that you're in. Notice how the space in the room is something that's been there before the room. The room is actually a visitor. The space has been there before. It has a certain timeless quality. In fact, if you were to just meditate on space, you might get most of what you're looking for in life. Because space has a lot of these qualities, like it's free, you know. It's free, it's not limited. It's both inside and outside the room. It actually even penetrates all the atoms. Scientists tell us most of what's in an atom is space. So most of what we are is also space by that definition. It may not feel like that, but that's actually how it is. So as we tune into the space in this room, we're tuning into something really timeless, really limitless, undefinable, neither pulling nor pushing. The space in the room doesn't agree with me, doesn't disagree with me, doesn't try to hold on to what I'm saying or push away what I'm saying. It has a quality of unconditional receiving. The strange thing is, whatever you focus on, you start imbibing those qualities. A lot of mothers tell me how before their child was born, they would focus on a certain picture or a certain image, and their child actually looks like that. I was even told about this mother who wanted her child to be naughty like Krishna, and now she's suffering with a really naughty child. That's how it goes. So, whatever you focus on, you start taking on those qualities. So as you focus on space, then you start, without even realizing it, you start tuning into the sense of timelessness, limitlessness, agendalessness, no pulling, no pushing, nothing to prove. So easily ignored. We will comment about the curtains and the color of the walls and the furniture. We'll almost always miss the space, just take it for granted. Even though the most difficult feature of any room is its space. Most defining, or you can hear, okay. So the most defining feature of any room is the space, isn't it? The defining feature of any room is the space. That's what makes a room. Voice is crackling. Yeah, just be patient, it'll come back in a second. So what I was saying is that the defining feature of any room is the space. The defining feature of any room is the space. What you focus on, you start taking on those qualities. Still can't hear. Let's try again. Well, just stay with me for as much as you can and whatever you can hear. Let's not worry too much about the signal. Because I think what I'm trying to convey to you, you at some level, you already know it. Yeah, it's clear now. Yeah, it may change because when you're far out from the city, then sometimes the network is like that. I had a distinct sense today that this life, this planet, this experience we're going through, it's such a small little part of all of existence. And this whole question of proximity, you know, I've been thinking about proximity. Proximity means how close you are to something. So when people close to us get sick and they die, they can't find a hospital bed, then it takes on a whole other meaning, a whole other proportion. Proximity. When there's a war with your neighboring country, then it's a huge deal. But if it's a war a few countries away, yeah, let them figure it out. So how much of what we are concerned about is just by accident of proximity? What happens to be close by is what you tend to think about, worry about, get anxious about. And if it's further away, then maybe not that concerned. And how much of that is accidental? I got a very worried call a couple of nights ago. My brother called late at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "What happened?" He said, "I've heard news that there has been a landslide in Uttarakhand." I happened to be visiting Uttarakhand. So the concern came because of proximity, because I happened to be in Uttarakhand and there's been a landslide in Uttarakhand. So the whole concern is, are you okay? There's a landslide here. And if I wasn't here, then there would not have been that much concern, would there have been? I mean, beyond the point, how much can you be concerned about? So just thinking on these lines. And then this evening, I came across this quote by Robert Adams. Let's see if I can find it. It's gone into hiding. That's all right. But essentially, he's saying how we are so caught up in our human experience and our human world. We get so preoccupied with it. We don't realize this is only one tiny part of existence. We get so caught up in the sensory experience that's coming to us, so limited by that, so hypnotized by that. It's not right or wrong, of course. It's just the way it is. And just to be just to know that that's only one way of looking at things. That's not the only way of looking at things. Even just that much, even if you're not actively trying to look at other things, that your experience, it's not the final word. It's not the only way to look at things. And we've all known that in this current situation, people are responding in many different ways. Some people are really afraid, some are panicking. I had a conversation with someone today who said, honestly, I'm really grateful. It feels strange to say it, but this has been the best time of my life. Yeah, Rupal had a nice thing here that there's something that transcends proximity. My feelings for India and my concern for everything going on in India is all consuming, even though I live in the US. And proximity does not play a role. It's about my homeland, my culture, my ancestors, my people. And you see, that has to do with your identification with being Indian. So it's your proximity with the identity. So it's my brother's even though he's not close to me, his proximity to me and his closeness to me. And yeah, so I'm not trying to, make any essential point. It's like an open question in my heart, that how my concern is determined by what I identify with, who I identify myself as, and whether it's Indian or whether it's certain family, certain group of people, certain species. And as I'm saying this, notice what it does for some of you. Some of you may agree with this or disagree with this. It's like a question mark. It may be something you don't fully understand. And can I invite you to just be present with that? It doesn't have to take you into thinking. So keep coming back to your experience and notice how you are feeling at this moment. Some of you have had a long day, some of you are just starting your day. And instead of categorizing your experience, can you just let the experience be what it is? In today's practice, can you even relax and release and let go your desire for peace? Can you be that agenda-less? Your desire to be inspired, your desire for peace. Supposed to be a really special full moon tonight, Chitragupta Purnima. Chitragupta is known to be the scribe of Yamraj, the Lord of Death. And as we know, maybe more than usual, the Lord of Death is in active duty these days. Very few people are not touched by this. Most know someone who has either died or who's very unwell and grievously ill. I don't think there's anyone who's completely untouched. So it's quite significant that this is Chitragupta Purnima. It's a day of reckoning. I invite all of us to come bring our attention to our heart. Also to both your palms, your hands. Soles of your feet. Top of your head. Base of your spine. So bring your attention to your heart. Feel what you're feeling. If you don't feel much, that's also fine. Notice that. Both the palms, feel what you're feeling. Soles of your feet. Top of your head. Base of your spine. And everything else in between. In today's practice, I'd like to make an intention that, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I want to make the intention that through our collective practice, It alleviates the physical, emotional, mental suffering of all those who've been affected by the current situation. So one more time, I have the intention that through our practice today, without really knowing how it's going to happen, just making the intention that it dramatically alleviates, reduces, lightens the physical, emotional, mental, financial, and every other kind of suffering, every other kind of strain for everyone affected by the current situation. This may not make complete sense in a linear way. How can our sitting here make any difference? But maybe there is a way it makes a difference. Maybe life has got some more secrets up its sleeve than we understand. Maybe we're all connected in ways that our mind can't fully comprehend. And that each one of us is willing to sit here. And I'm getting a sense that today's practice will be, for some of you, it may be a little uncomfortable. I'd like us all to really welcome that. Let's take this 1%, 2% discomfort for what for somebody else is 100% discomfort. So let's bear it. And for some of you, that might feel like boredom. For some of you, it might feel like a physical pain or a tiredness or a distractedness or a restlessness. And I invite you to be a little strong today. Just bear it. Just bear it. And if for some of you, you're feeling very light and very clean and very clear, excellent. You don't have to feel what I described. But let us all be like kind of a subtle vacuum cleaner. Just through our practice today, let it clean up the collective debris, the residue. Let's clean up all the heaviness, all the stagnancy, all the grief, all the pain, all the confusion, all the anxiety. Cleaning it all up, returning it to the light of awareness, which is forever untouched by the content of experience, the content of awareness. There's a powerful Tibetan practice called Tonglen. Some of you may have heard of this. In this practice, you're breathing in suffering. Start with your own suffering. Breathing out relief. I breathe in all the pain. I breathe out complete relief. May I be a channel of blessings for someone today. May I be a channel of blessings for someone today. If each one of us, there's a question for each one of us, see what happens. If today, tonight, today, whatever, if you were to die today, then what would be the unfinished business? Get in touch with that, feel what it feels like. What's unresolved, what's unfinished, what feels incomplete. It's not a judgment, it's just a noticing. For some of you, there's a lot. For some of you, there's little. For some of you, there's nothing. So let's say you're going to die today. Chitragupta's Purnima. So never know what he's got in store for us. What's incomplete? What's unresolved? Just notice it. In your very noticing it and not reacting to that, in a way, you've resolved it. I had a strange conversation at the dinner table. Strange in the sense it's something I've never heard before. So one of the main members of my team here, I'm here in Uttarakhand, we're doing a series of courses that'll be launched in the next few months. So one of the main crew members, team members, told me that she has directed so many documentaries and films, and she's been a big part of the film industry. And so she's very familiar with Indian films. So when she got pregnant, she was in her mind replaying what in Indian films pregnancy is supposed to look like. So she was playing in her mind how, the whole, she was preparing herself for this painful process. So imagine a surprise when her water breaks and she goes to hospital and they get her all set up and they say, yeah, we'll wait for the labor pains to come. And they waited 4 hours, she did not have labor pains. So doctor just went ahead and surgically removed her baby. She literally had almost no pain because even for the last part, they gave her the anesthetic. She's like, it was like I was all ready for this painful process of birth and there was no pain. It almost let down a little bit, expecting more of a struggle. I've never heard of a person giving birth with no pain. And to me, that's a sign that just like her assumptions about the birthing process turned out to not be completely accurate. Your assumptions about the dying process might not necessarily be accurate. You might have an imagination of what it's like, but it may not necessarily be what actually happens. What's the point getting all worked up only to find that it's a lot easier and smoother than you ever expected? And even if it is difficult, you're worrying about it now. It's not going to make it any easier. Only your willingness to be as present as you can now and embrace the fullness of your experience now, that's what's going to enable you to be open and available and welcoming to whatever comes up at whatever time it comes up. So continuing with our intention to collectively be like a energetic vacuum cleaner for whatever's happening in our world. And we don't even have to know how it's happening. It's just happening. Energy is getting transmuted. That which was heavy and dense and stuck is getting light, is flowing, is moving, is getting stuck. Inviting each one of us to remember, if not mentally, then at least energetically, remember our superpowers. We all have many superpowers. Some of us are patient, some of us are creative, some of us are able to express ourselves well, some of us have a good sense of humor, some of us are good listeners, some of us are unfailingly honest, some of us can be vulnerable and genuinely share what's going on. Some of us are great organizers, great leaders. Some of us are humble. And so inviting each of you to connect with your own superpower, whether or not you've thought of it as a superpower before this. Also connect to see if you can feel it. Connect to the rhythm of your heart, the heartbeat. Some people can feel it quite clearly. Some people it takes a little effort. What's it like to connect your own heartbeat? What's it like over the next 2 or 3 minutes for all our heartbeats, wherever we are in the world, to synchronize? It's like one heart beating. Breathing in through the heart, breathing out through the heart. What's it like for all our hearts to beat in unison? And something's getting cleansed. Something within each one of us is getting cleansed. Something in our family dynamic is getting cleansed. Something for everyone around us is getting cleansed. Something in the place that we are in is getting cleansed. And again, cleansing our collective energy field. You don't have to understand how this happens, it just happens. Subtle intention, gentle intention. May this be for the collective benefit. Maybe you know someone whose family is unwell or who's grieving. And whether or not they're on this call, we are one heart beating. And we respond coherently to whatever's coming up. And something's getting lighter and lighter. Something really heavy and stiff and dense is getting lighter and lighter. It might be happening really slow for some of you, and that's still fine. Just notice. The purpose of our practice is to shift from thinking to feeling to just being. This just being is a kind of natural silence, effortless silence. Automatically, one is connected to the right people, right experiences. My teacher used to refer to something called the sound of silence. The sound of silence. So it's not just natural sounds or man-made sounds. There's yet another sound, subtler sound, called the sound of silence. So whatever subtle mystical energies are present in this Chitragupta Purnima, inviting us to be saturated and bathed in those energies. Something's getting cleansed. Old patterns are getting cleansed. Something very sticky that was sticky in your heart is getting cleansed, leaving you feeling so much lighter. Yesterday, I did a small session for someone here, and she was saying that she was just floating in the, she just felt like she was floating after that for many hours. It's not that we made her float, it's that she was carrying this baggage for years. To the extent she released it, she just felt like she was flying. She couldn't stop walking and she couldn't stop looking at the mountains. And so we all are naturally free, but sometimes we are holding ourselves back, we're weighing ourselves down. with all kinds of fears and anxieties, blaming and judging. So what if each one of us is part of this energetic necklace, energetic web, and it's completely filtering out all the darkness, all the heaviness, all the stuckness, all the overthinking, all the fear, all the guilt, all that is present at this time. I'd like us to now shift gears to a more active process of blessing. Infinite blessings. Infinite blessings too, and you can fill in the blanks. I'll give you a few examples. Infinite blessings to all those who are feeling so lonely, so alone, either at home or in hospital. Even the few people around them are wearing masks. They can't see their faces. They're wearing PPE kits. So infinite blessings to everyone who feels lonely, who feels alone, who feels cut off from their friends and family. Every such person, infinite blessings. And feel as though beautiful energies are emerging from your heart. These are not just words, infinite blessings. Infinite blessings to anyone who's lost a loved one, even though we don't really lose anything, we just return things. But nevertheless, everyone who's returned a loved one to where they came from. Infinite blessings. And if you're getting something, if you want to put it in the chat, you can. I'd like to read out what are the other infinite blessings that are coming. Infinite blessings 4 or 2. See what's coming. And you can put it on the chat if you like. Infinite blessings to myself, says Akansha. Infinite blessings for everyone who is helping people deal with their stress, with their trauma, who's lending a patient ear. Infinite blessings to all such people. Infinite blessings to all children who are alone in the hospitals without their parents. Infinite blessings to the medical fraternity. Infinite blessings to the universe. Silence, peace, kindness, love for everyone. Infinite blessings. To Mother Earth, who is cleansing herself at this time. Infinite blessings to our planet. Infinite blessings to everyone for courage and trust in the process. Infinite blessings to frontline workers, caregivers. Infinite blessings to Nitya Shanti. Infinite blessings to anyone who's feeling lonely, scared, helpless. Infinite blessings to the ones who are pure at heart, for their blessing to human beings. Infinite blessings to the virus. Please go away. Go in peace. Infinite blessings to all doctors who are doing their duty, keeping their fears aside, and to their families who have let them do this. Infinite blessings to the farmers because of whom we can eat every day. Infinite blessings to everyone who's helping for the betterment of the current situation. Infinite blessings to all the delivery boys. In my building, we even had a delivery girl. So all the delivery people. Infinite blessings to every ambulance passing by, filling it, saturating it with blessings. Infinite blessings to those who are chanting for the planet. Infinite blessings to anyone who's languishing and feeling depressed. Infinite blessings to all the mute beings that play such a vital role in balancing the ecosystem. Infinite blessings to the refugees. Infinite blessings to vaccines. Infinite blessings to those who are struggling with their habits. Infinite blessings to grieving families. Beautiful. If you like, you can take a few deep breaths. And whenever you feel ready, you can very slowly open your eyes. If you want to rub your palms and put them over your eyes, you can. And slowly open your eyes. Great. If you want to open your eyes, you can. I want to play a little game with you called Oh No, How Wonderful. So I'm going to give you a few oh no statements. You have to come up with what's wonderful about that. You can put it in the chat if you like. So for example, if I say, oh no, we're in a traffic jam, somebody might say, how wonderful. We get to spend time with the family. We can talk to each other. That's one example. So like this, come up with as many examples as you can for the oh no. Because nothing by itself is purely oh no. It also comes with some kind of how wonderful. You just have to look for it. Oh no, we have so many people who are unwell in this country. What's wonderful there? Oh no, we have so many people who are unwell in this country. How wonderful so many people are healing. How wonderful that the community is doing their best to support them with affection and compassion. How wonderful that so many can get to serve the unwell. How wonderful that there are many more people who are well, and that's wonderful. How wonderful that all can get well and immunity changed. How wonderful there are jobs for healthcare staff. How wonderful they're all healing. How wonderful that families are coming together. How wonderful that they'll be well soon. How wonderful we understand the importance of health. How wonderful that new high-tech medicines are coming in. This is great. Let me give you another oh no. Oh no. I'm struggling with my work, or someone I know is struggling with my work, with their work. Work is not so easy for people anymore. They aren't getting paid on time, or they aren't getting paid at all. Oh no, we have this financial challenge. Yeah, lots of answers that come. How wonderful that you still have a job. How wonderful that you have some work. How wonderful that Mother Earth is receiving infinite universal energy and healing. How wonderful many new opportunities are knocking at your door. How wonderful it's time for a big change. How wonderful that you have time to look forward, to look inward, sorry. How wonderful to think of money in an entirely new way. How wonderful that something beautiful will come out of this crisis. Oh no, some people in my family don't believe in the vaccines. They're refusing to take the vaccine. What's wonderful about that? How wonderful I get to expand my scientific knowledge in order to convince them. How wonderful they have faith in their immunity. That's a good one. How wonderful that they're so sincere with their own inner power. How wonderful that they trust the antibodies in their own body. How wonderful that so many others who do, and that we can prove them wrong. How wonderful they can trust their own immune system. How wonderful they have strong immunity. How wonderful that they have the choice to take the vaccine. How wonderful they recognize the power of their body. Amazing answers. How wonderful that I can accept that we are all a bunch of fools. How wonderful they're very concerned about the health of people. How wonderful they're the only sane ones. How wonderful the system will not crash in phase one. Good fun. Very good. So what you focus on expands. This little game is showing us that, oh no, no matter what it is, you can always find something wonderful, or at least something bearable. You can't find wonderful. And that's a really great lesson. What we focus on expands. So all the answers you've given, if you kept focusing on your beautiful answers, you really would find everything very wonderful and beautiful. Today is this, like I mentioned before, it's Chitragupta Purnima. Chitragupta has a role of writing down all your deeds, good or bad. He keeps constantly making notes of all your deeds. And so today is a nice day to come to peace with whatever our deeds are, for good or for ill. A wonderful practice in Sri Lanka is to write down. They have a book called Pinpot, and they write down all the kind, generous, wholesome, loving things they've done in their life. And every week or sometimes every day, they make a note of these things. By the end of their life, they've filled not just one, but many, many notebooks. When they're sick, when they're unwell, their family starts reading from their Pinpot. Look, this is what you did when you were 10 years old. Look, this is what you did when you were 25 years old. Look, this is what you did when you were 43 years old. What a wonderful practice. Shifts our focus away from all the incompleteness of our life. So let me play a version of this with you, the Pinpot game with you. And in this game, I want to ask you to write down anything loving or wholesome or skillful or useful or beneficial that you remember that you have done in different phases of your life. So let me ask you, between the age of 0 to 10, first 10 years of your life, you can put in the chat any kind, loving, wholesome, skillful, joyful, nice thing that you may have done. A thing that if you were to think of it again and again, you will die very peacefully. What could it be? So in the first 10 years of your life, what are some of the loving, wholesome, skillful, joyful, peaceful things you've done? I troubled my parents. How wonderful. I sat quietly in all the birthday parties. Is that a good thing? I took care of my younger siblings. Oh, that's great. When my friend bruised her knee, I held her hand and I prayed for her healing. That's lovely. I helped a girl who had fainted in school. Wonderful. I lived my childhood fully. I played a lot. I gave away a favorite pair of new clothes to my cousin because she had loved them. Ah, that sounds good. I think Chitragupta will like that, making notes of all these things. Rashmi says I danced a lot. I allowed people the joy of witnessing a child who could sing and chant and read. I allowed myself the opportunity to love my family fiercely, even without realizing it. I sang poems on stages, and I won the second prize in a science quiz. All right. I was playful and even got hurt once. I gave my ice cream to a stray dog. Priyanka. I'm not sure how good it is for the stray dog, but yeah, great. I played the role of an angel. Ah. My grandma made chapatis for a pregnant nomad, and I guess you got to give it. Yeah. You got to deliver it. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And Charu said I was an entertainer for my neighborhood friends. Kamini said I always dressed well. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So between the age of 11 and 20, what were some of the kind, wholesome, loving, skillful, beneficial, selfless, wholehearted thing that you did? So some of the answers was part of my school play. I used to cook food and then go to college. I wrote letters for a blind person. Oh, that's beautiful. I danced with Santa. I just realized the spelling of Santa, the same letters as Satan. I never realized that. Danced with Santa, got chocolate, and gave it to a balloon seller's child. Wow. I used to be a good listener to some of my friends. I supported a friend who was going through a rough time. I helped a friend come out of depression. I volunteered in the hospital. I helped my MBA friends with my notes that they could photocopy during exam time. Even Dipti shared her notes with many students. I took chocolate from my grandmother to give it to my neighbor who hadn't had it for a long time. I looked after my family when I lost my mother. I came first in class 10th. I bunked school to watch movies. I taught underprivileged children. Sriram, you're on a different tangent altogether. You're troubling your parents and bunking school, and you're thinking the way. Chitragupta is making note of all of this. We'll have to account with Chitragupta eventually. I did chores that my mom couldn't do when she was unwell. Yes. I looked after some flowering plants. I was leader in a national NSS. the National Scouts, what was it? And worked for programs like anti-smoking, anti-drugs. So we work on drug addicts. Wow, great. I encouraged my siblings to study well. Wow. I collected funds for the security personnel families who lost their lives in the Mumbai terrorist attack. Wow. I tended to injured birds, rescued fledglings, also directed plays at school that won awards. Amazing. So there are many more. Good fun. Won the best actress title many times. Wow. I waited for Prasad at Balvihar. Rachi is saying, can you make me talk to Chitragupt? I have a lot of questions for him. I'll ask Chitragupt for his number and see if I can give it to you. I looked after my mom when she had a broken back. Amazing. Let's move on. So from now, from 21 to 30, if you're that old, some of you are not that old. I imagine you're at least that old. So any of the kind, helpful, loving, peaceful, joyful, wholesome, anything that you did or are doing that's worth noting and worth rejoicing in. So let's see what it is. I cook generously for flatmates. As a poor student myself. Oh, that's interesting. I worked at NSD. NSD must be National School of Drama, I imagine. Right. I got married and made my husband's life from boring to exciting. I thought you were about to say from boring to miserable. But good, exciting. That's nice. Neha, I fell in love. Oh. Nita says, I looked after my grandmother-in-law. So Neha, you fell in love only after your 20s, huh? Not bad. Anupama, I taught a lot of students and I mentored younger, relatively underprivileged women to create a livelihood. Anjali, I would donate to charity and the needy whenever I could. Purnima, I was there for my friends when they needed listening. Shrivalli, I organized my brother's marriage. Wow, that's nice. Normally it's the other way around. Surbhi, I prayed every night for universal well-being after the Gujarat earthquake. Wow. Renuka, I took care of my mom and sister and I lost my dad when I was 25. I gave listening ears to people going through rough times, says Kamini. I started my first job at 21. Neha saying I didn't fall in love, I rose in love. Charu says, I took my kids to a school to teach underprivileged children. Wow. I got married and took care of my family so well, says Dipti. Dilip said, I helped many families financially. Great, there are so many more. I'm not going to read all of them. I translated for my country people who didn't know English. I tried to reconcile my mother with two of her brothers also earlier in my life. And if you're that old, then from 31 to 40. And if you're not that old, then you can say some more from your current decade. What are some of the skillful, joyful, meaningful, helpful things you've done between 31 and 40, if that's the age bracket you're in? Otherwise, you can continue sharing from your previous age bracket. I started tending for community dogs. All right, Anjali, great. I wholeheartedly care for my child. I raised my daughter. I took care of my father in his last 6 months of his life. How wonderful is that? I started my inner child journey. I purchased a house of my own and bought my parents' home, who were against my marriage between 31 to 40. All right. I gave voiceovers for documentaries on taking care of the aged. I secretly sent blessings to one and all. I got married, the most wholesome thing done ever. All right, Gaurav. I'm enjoying Nitya's sessions right now. I'm unconditionally loving my kids. I paid debts off against my brother's accident, stood there for everyone I know and those who I do not know. I recognized my inner empath and worked on active contribution through my entire being. I looked after my son and husband. I became mom and I enjoyed being one. I adopted a cat. I helped with funds for cremation of unclaimed bodies. Oh, wow. I lived my childhood again with my son. I left a comfortable job and started my own business with Ankur. Roshni says I started meditating. Kamini says enjoyed teaching differently abled people. I started an organization that till date works for senior citizens, keeping them active and spreading happiness. Wow, Nidhi. I went back to college to study. I tried to save my friend who was drowning in the sea. Wow. Tried to means, I hope you were able to save them. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Kirti, I started a company and helped create employment opportunities for others. Amazing. I kept myself alive through depression. That's a big one. How wonderful I gave my life to Lord Jesus. Oh, so beautiful things here. And now from this age 40 till whatever age you are now, some of you are much older. So in the last, whatever, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And if you're younger than that, then you can continue sharing. So I'm just going to say, what was it? 41 plus. And see what are the wholesome, kind, loving, helpful, generous, selfless things you've done. I started working for a nonprofit to educate, empower, support people with lung diseases. All right. I learned to forgive and let go. I left the corporate life to just be there for my family, friends, and myself. I started unlearning, Simita. I learned self-care, says Surbi. I have courage to forgive and forget and have started working on my beliefs. Healing myself. I've learned to let go. I've embarked on the journey to start loving myself and discovering who I really am and what I'm here for. I finally divided my practice and started teaching breath and yoga. Oh, sorry, dived into my practice. I was a friend to my children. Wow. I joined your community and started doing these things effortlessly, selflessly. I cooked and cleaned for 4 months for my family and friends every day during the lockdown. That's true, that's big. I did my PhD, attended sessions in Landmark and ISABS. I lost my job during COVID, but distributed food during COVID with the help of my family for 21 days, post which I joined an NGO distributing all related things during the peak of COVID. That's incredible, Venkatesh. I started working on my dreams, Prachi. I planted seeds of fun and focus in school-going children. I learned to wake up early. I learned to stand for myself. I worked with the transgender community and started working on myself. Amazing. I contributed some bits of my earning to NGOs. I discovered you means like you discovered me in the lockdown. Wow. Great. I actively continue to work for the last 10 years in the spaces of self-acceptance, spaces of sexuality, mental, emotional health issues, through all sorts of conversations. Anupama, that's amazing. I started practicing Nichiren Buddhism and started loving myself. So nice. And there are many more. Great. So now this is the kind of pinpots that we've created. Of course, it's all of you writing. Normally you'd write for yourself. And I did this exercise when I was a monk, and I was blown away by the power of the exercise. I was literally floating in the air for the next many hours. I literally felt a whole weight has gone off my shoulders. What you focus on expands. So this is how you become a master storyteller. Oh no, how wonderful. Oh no, how wonderful. and focus on all the kind, wholesome, generous, loving, selfless things. Some people think, oh, but that will make my ego bigger, stronger. Actually, it's the opposite that happens. Ego gets stronger when there's less self-love, self-acceptance. And wisdom gets stronger when there is more self-love, self-acceptance. So don't worry too much about the ego. It's not that you're going to become a sudden megalomaniac and only think that you're the best in the world. Not like that. But you will have a healthy relationship with yourself. And that's the purpose of today's exercise. Sri Lankan practice is called Pinpot, Pinpoth. You can even buy books, maybe on Amazon. It's called Pinpot. I don't know if you'll get it on Amazon, but basically it's like a notebook or like a big journal. And you write down the date, you write down what you did, you write down how it felt. And like this, every time you do something kind, selfless, generous, you can write down the date, write down what you did or how it went and how it feels. And like this, you're creating a very powerful feedback loop of enjoying this aspect of your life, enjoying the process of growing. At this moment, it feels the same. The self-acknowledgement just made me shrug off my helplessness. That's beautiful. Yeah. What if one does not remember past good deeds? You remember, I don't remember, you already mentioned a few. The funny thing is, Anjali, we tend to remember our bad deeds and not our good deeds. So we have the saying in India, neki kar darya mein dal. Do something good and then put it in the river. Like, in other words, forget about it. But what some people take that to mean is, neki kar darya mein dal. Do something good, forget it. And make one little mistake. Bar bar yaad kar, bar bar yaad kar. Remember it again and again. Beat yourself up, beat yourself up. Come on. Something's wrong about this way of thinking. So the Buddha taught a practice called Chaganusati. Chaganusati means remember again and again the kind, helpful, generous, loving things you've done. Remember them again and again. Buddha said this is very conducive. It's one of the 40 meditation subjects he's given. Continuously think of the good things you've done, because that changes your self-image, your self-concept. And yes, we will make mistakes. All of us will. Things that are not so skillful, that hurt us and hurt others. Then pause and check, what can I learn from this? In the next time when this happens, how do I want to respond? And that's the appropriate way of going about it. Beautiful. Should we then never focus on the lesser good deeds that we have done or have repentance for those? I mean, I don't know, like in my world, certainly to acknowledge you did something that hurt someone. I don't know how repentance really helps. Maybe the way you're using the word repentance is different the way I use it. Repentance for me almost sounds a little bit like self-flagellating and feeling guilty. But to my mind, that never really changes any behavior. So if instead of that, we can do what's called making amends. Yeah, you and I have done things that have hurt others. Now, how can you make amends? Can you do something to resolve that situation? Can you seek forgiveness? Can you do something to serve them? Making amends. So like this, see if you can make amends. And like they say, keep the lesson, release the pain. Keep the lesson, release the pain. So we're not saying forget these things. Yeah, of course, this happened. But keep the lesson. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And release the pain. All right, so today we've had some meditation and we had a chance to play some games like, oh no, how wonderful, and this Pinpot game where we're thinking of all the good things we've done. One of my teachers, there was this lady who came to him and said that my mother's really unwell. She's in hospital. She's having a blood pressure issue. What can be done? And he gave her a mini version of exactly what we've done today. He says, ask her when she's talking properly or whatever in bed. Ask her what have been some of the happiest moments of her life. Happiest moments of her life. Make a note of them. See if you can come up with 20 of them. And then write them down and then hang them by her bed. And whenever she has some problem with her blood pressure and things are getting dangerous or difficult, or she's in discomfort, just start reading out those 20. You may not even have to read out all 20. You can only read out first 5 or first 10. And already you'll see a shift in her. And the lady actually went to the hospital and she asked her mother this, and she put a little next to her bed. She put a little, what can you call it, a little notepad, which had a list of all of these things. And she instructed the nurses, my mother's situation is very dangerous or serious. Along with everything else, start reading from this list. Let her remember these beautiful times of her life. And it actually made a difference. At one point, she had a big episode where the blood pressure was really rising. And her daughter just calmly began saying, Mom, remember this? Remember that time? Remember you did this? You went there, you helped this person? Remember that? Remember that? And she just kept saying that. And just in the next 5-7 minutes, her blood pressure just normalized. Very powerful, simple but powerful tool. At the end, in Greece, the idea of hell is very interesting. So they say when you're about to die, you will meet the version of yourself you could have been. And that's hell. That's hell. Hell is the version of yourself you could have been, but you never allowed yourself to be. So all these practices we are learning, we are coming to a deeper self-acceptance, a deeper recognition of what we never regret doing, reminding ourselves that we are worthy and we do make a difference. And we don't have to judge ourselves for the lowest moment of our day, the lowest moment of our life, and the silliness that we've done. Instead, we can, if you have to tell a story, tell a great story. Talk about how connected and helpful and tuned in you are. And then you will die, at the very least, without remorse, without regret. And at best, you will die in awareness, without resistance, even joyfully. Wonderful. Wonderful. What is the Buddhist practice name? It's called Chaganusati. Let me write down. Learning all these cryptic words these days. Chaganusati. So what if we know what amends to make, but we are not able to still change things in life? Well, keep going. Do what you can. We will never change, actually, Purnima. We will never change until the pain of not changing gets too intense. So that's actually how we work. All of us, we will continue as long as we possibly can until it just gets unbearable. So the wise person just accelerates this process and they mentally think of how bad it already is and how bad it can get. So the wise person accelerates this and say, no, I can't bear this. And that's what creates change. For the rest of us, we'll just try to go as long as we can without creating a change. But sooner or later, the change has to happen. Yeah. All right. I'm feeling quite complete for today, even though it was supposed to be a 2-hour session. I'm feeling quite complete. If you want to ask me something or say something in the comments, you can, and then we can end today's session. Let me know how you've been, how the session has been for you. Where do you draw the line between being spiritual and balancing your family life? Is there even a line? Yeah, I don't think there's a line. Being spiritual is not some strange thing of sitting in front of a deity and worshiping. That's not my idea of spirituality. Spirituality is your heart, it's awareness, it's love, it's compassion, it's living these principles. And your family life is not for 1 second in contradiction to that. If anything, it is the playground and the testing ground for everything that you believe you have understood spiritually. So if you're in the household life, then that is your spiritual. That is the bhumi, that is the ground of your spiritual practice. So yeah, no line. Awesome session, great session. You give us practical tips to avoid procrastination. Well, even I procrastinate, so I don't have practical tips. You let me know if you find some. What do you do if you feel stuck in your situation? Well, the truth is you cannot be stuck for long because nothing in the universe is stuck. It looks like it's stuck, but everything is moving. So come to whatever your concept of flow is. Maybe exercise is flow, maybe walking is flow, maybe breathing is flow, maybe loving is flow, maybe gratitude is flow. That could help. If you could give us one tip from all these other practice, what would that be? What's stuck with you? Why do you want one tip? I'm giving you so many tips all the time. Well, I would say don't take yourself so seriously. Just be more light. And what's that funny saying that if you're stressing out, how does it go? If you're getting stressed, they don't get stressed. You will not get out of this alive. In other words, don't take it so serious. Do what you need to do the best you can. Do your best, leave the rest. We are really living in a very type A kind of culture right now. Everything is go, 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 accomplish, do, learn, become, do. It's actually quite psychotic in many ways. So to be well adjusted in a profoundly sociopathic, psychotic, neurotic society is no measure of mental health, said Jiddu Krishnamurti. So I would say don't measure who you are based on popular culture, because popular culture itself is highly distorted. And see if you can, in your own way, whether it's in nature or your own quiet time or your reflection or your journaling, see if you can find your own parameters for everything, whether it's success, whether it's love, whether it's relationships. Like I even found my own name for myself. So why don't you be a little bit more, like, when you buy these phones nowadays, there's a word for it, bloatware. You get all these apps, which is useless. It comes installed with all this bloatware. And the smart person deletes all those apps. And the smart person chooses the ringtone that they like and installs a better browser and installs a better wallpaper. So yes, you do have default settings for this life, but that doesn't mean you have to be stuck. Like you buy a phone, you don't have to be stuck with that ringtone forever or that wallpaper forever or that bloatware forever. You can change it. So I would say the lesson is that don't just get hung up on the default settings you've been given. You've been given default settings for what relationships are supposed to look like, what work is supposed to look like, what spirituality is supposed to look like. And I would invite you to be a little bit more autonomous and challenge that. Yeah, that would be my encouragement for you. Don't just take what's been handed to you. Be a little bit more inquiring. They say question everything. Question everything. There was a big graffiti written on a station, question everything. And people were admiring it. And then a few weeks later, someone noticed an extra graffiti someone had made below it. It said, why? Question everything. Why? Should one believe in religion? I like this teaching of the Buddha. He says, don't just believe things because they've come before you or written in some book. He says, test them out, check them out, see if they are valid, see if they make sense to you, see if they appeal to your logic and your reason and your actual life experience. This is a famous sutra called the Kalama Sutra by the Buddha. He speaks to the Kalamas, who at that time was some of the most, you could say, in a way, forward-thinking race of that time in India, the Kalamas. They had democracy long before the other places. He told the Kalamas, don't just take things on hearsay. So I would take everything with a pinch of salt, because a lot of these religion has an exoteric aspect and an esoteric aspect. The exoteric is, rituals and ideas of dress and food, and was suited to a certain time and place. It may be still somewhat valid, But that's the exoskeleton, that's the exterior. And then there's an esoteric and internal part. Most people, when it comes to religion, they're stuck in the exoteric. They're stuck in rites and rituals. But you have to dig a little bit deeper and meet a true practitioner of your religion to meet the esoteric, which is the inner world. And every religion, the inner world, that's where the real gems are. But that requires, and even beyond the esoteric is the mystical. So in a way, it's going from the head to the heart, to the soul or the spirit. And then even beyond that, the transcendent. So don't just believe in it, question. Goenkaji used to say, you go from Shrutamay Pragya to Chintanmay Pragya to Bhavanamay Pragya. Shrutamay Pragya is based on belief, blind faith. Chintanmay Pragya is based on intellectual understanding, reason, rationale. And Bhavanamay Pragya, this is where the Buddha turns to Sariputra in the middle of a talk and says, Sariputra, do you believe what I just said? Sariputra was his right-hand disciple. Do you believe what I just said? And Sariputra shocks the assembly by saying, no, I don't. Like, what? Sariputra is saying he doesn't believe in what the Buddha said? And the Buddha asks him to clarify. And Sariputra says, well, I don't need to believe it. I know it. Do you believe you have a right hand? You don't need to believe. If I have a right hand, I have a right hand. There's nothing to believe about it. Do you believe you're a man or a woman? So you see, belief is only there for a certain point. Beyond a point, you have to go beyond belief into knowing. Belief is not going to quench your thirst. When do you stop seeking and just be? It can be now. It doesn't have to be any other time. Beautiful. So when you stop seeking, when you're in a state of gratitude, when you're in a state of contentment, when you're in a state of, these states are available to us. State of, what can I give? It's an important shift to make, because how long will you seek and seek and seek? Seeking also gets very tiring. There's actually a course on the internet called the Finder's Course. It's about ending the seeking permanently. Pretty intense course. Finder's Course. Let me read some of the comments here. Amazing session. What do you do if you feel stuck in your situation? Yeah, I think we mentioned that, right? Just be patient and come to flow. Thank you. I'll remember. Oh no, how wonderful. Very nice. The session was very enlightening. Never realized how 1.5 hours flew by. In fact, I too like this opportunity to visit my building terrace and enjoyed listening to it. Wow, you were on the terrace. That's great. Very nice. How do you dissociate yourself from expectation and letting the love flow from your heart without expecting anything back in return? Why not start small? These are, this is a very big thing you asked. How do I dissociate myself from expectations and let the love flow without expecting anything back? Just start small. Just come to love. Don't worry so much about it. Just come to awareness. Awareness itself is a kind of dissociation. Because in awareness, you can recognize, oh, this is the content of my experience. Every moment of awareness is a stepping back. Every moment of love is a stepping into. So step back, step into, step back, step into. This starts cutting through the illusion. And don't wait for some finality. There is no finality. Just let it happen organically. And be willing to be messy. I like this quote by Elon Musk. He says, if it's worth doing, it's worth failing at. He's set up entire businesses knowing they probably will fail. That's a very interesting way of going through life. That, don't expect immediate perfection. Just give it your best. Meraki, this nice word I learned recently. Meraki is a Greek word which means pour yourself into it. Pour your love into it. Pour your creativity into it. Pour your heart into it. Leave a little bit of yourself in whatever you do, whether it's cooking or it's taking care of others or it's a conversation. Pour a little bit of yourself into it. Meraki. So my new word is I've actually shifted from the word miraculous to miraculous. I think it's a great practice. All right, guys, let's call it a night. Beautiful. I'll read your comments later. Thank you so much. Let's make a Mayurma if you know how to do that. I'll put on my video briefly. All right, hands go up. And make a nice big heart. Multiply by infinity. And we say together, Mayur. All right, take rest. And we have Padmaja wanted me to announce something. Let me not forget. She wanted me to tell you when the next new moon session is. 11th. New moon session. Yeah, when is it, Patty?
11th May, same link.
11th of May on the same link. Yeah, so you can join us. And those of you who are joining us for daily practice, we practice for about half an hour, 40 minutes, 10:30 every evening. There's a different link for that. You can find it in my Telegram group if you're not already joining that. Okay, be well. Good night.